All right, so this broke not too long after we did our previous video. Um, the United States lawmakers are attempting to um, create a situation in which if the parent content if the parent company of TikTok doesn't divest from TikTok, that TikTok will be banned in the United States. And people are losing their minds. People are losing their minds because they do not want to see TikTok get banned. And there's all of these ancillary questions going on about why America and the lawmakers and the Fed and the feds are choosing to focus on this when we got all these other problems going on out here. Why are we choosing to focus on TikTok when we got all of these other issues? So I want to talk about this because I would have used this as a topic in the previous video had it not the timing of it not occurred after we had already gone off stream. But this says American sound off on TikTok ban and viral rants, embarrassing to be a U.S. citizen. American frustrations erupted on TikTok in the days following the House of Representatives' bipartisan vote in favor of proposed legislation that, if passed, would force Chinese owned company ByteDance to divest from the popular video sharing platform. It's embarrassing to be a U.S. citizen. The text from one of TikToker Lauren Ramos's recent videos read. Like others discussed by last week's vote, Ramos railed against the measure that, if passed, would block the platform in the U.S. if its parent company ByteDance fails to divest within 165 days of passage. The bill would also require the platform to be purchased by a country that is not a U.S. adversary. For anyone who does not know, this controversy is rooted in the fact that ByteDance is a company that is Chinese owned, and Chinese is largely viewed as an adversary of America, which means TikTok poses a security risk. Because an adversary of America is the parent company for this social media app that is being widely implemented on United States soil. So that's background for the controversy. This article goes on to say this is the one time they, members of Congress, decide to unite forces and come together. We when the homelessness rates are going up, people can't even feed their kids. The government's just like, okay, maybe later. But when it comes to TikTok, are you kidding me? Date Right Stuff, the TikTok account for the Right Stuff dating app for conservative singles, chimed in with a post that highlighted similar complaints from U.S. citizens' perspectives. I can't afford a home. I don't feel safe. Groceries are way too expensive. My entire neighborhood is filled with homeless people, he said in the video. Shifting to the US government's perspective, the post sarcastically continued with the best I can do is ban TikTok. User at Pearlmania 500 ranted about the bill's bipartisan support as Congress tables more pressing concerns, with the caption on a recent video reading, "Get ready with me as we get silenced by Congress." The only thing all 535 members of effing Congress can effing agree on is to ban TikTok. That's it. That's the only thing, he said. I heard them talk about raising the minimum wage. They can't effing agree on that. I heard them talking about keeping prescription drug prices low for people. Nope, can't agree on that. But when it comes to banning TikTok, line up, buddies. So that's pretty much more of the same if we continue going down the line in terms of that article. But culture wars have now precipitated into TikTok. The United States is citing security risk for banning what people love. People love this TikTok. It's all over the place. What is it? How many users at this point? 100 and I don't want to quote myself on something that's inaccurate. I can look that up. But TikTok is a big deal. Corporate America and capitalism is heavily invested in it. People advertise in it, which is the real issue here. Is it's all about the money, but the government wants to try and get rid of it if its parent company does not divest from this social media application. What are your thoughts on this entire scenario?
Um, I personally think that um, this is a war for the minds of the users. Because right now, they can have their influence on the app, but they don't control it. for real. They don't control the data. They don't control any of that stuff. This is some valuable stuff going on this app, and the government, the U.S. government needs that. That doesn't need to be going on offshores. Um, to me, this is deeper than money. This is we just talked about the education system. Kids are spending more times on this app than in school. Um, if you spent any time on that in that dumpster called TikTok, you'll start to see how you're fed certain things. Um, much like I mentioned in the last topic, you don't control what's on your For You page as much as you would like. They control whatever's coming through your feed. Everybody's getting the same stories, everybody's getting the same videos. It's literally shifting the minds of the people in real time. So that being in the hands of another country poses a threat to the United States. People homeless in the streets does not pose a threat to the United States. Uh, Low test scores, as crazy as that sound, does not threaten the United States. But the minds of the people um, being controlled by an outside or an adversarial force, now that is a threat to the United States. So at that point, there is no disagreement in Congress, any alphabet agency. They're all on this. They're all on the same page when it comes to maintaining security for the country. That's why I can see why they agreed on this so wholeheartedly. I think it's all about making sure that, much like how any other major platform, social media platform, is domestic, so they want to have TikTok to be the same. Uh, this is this is on it, like, to strong arm a company like this will be wildness. So, what are your thoughts, sir, on the U.S. government potentially banning TikTok?
150 million users as of January 2024 is how many users are on TikTok. That's just in the United States, not everywhere else. Um, the closest company, the closest to that after the US is Indonesia with around 126 million users. So for whatever that's worth. But yeah, 150 million people are on this thing. I am not on it. My brain cannot handle another social media platform. But my little nephew's on it, and damn near everyone I know is also on it. So it is a big deal. But my whole thing with this is, to the people who have a problem with this proposition, the potential for TikTok to be banned, because that's what really what people are triggered by is the idea that their TikTok will be taken away from them.
Mm-hmm.
If it were to go far enough down that rabbit hole, people are triggered most by the idea that their TikTok would be taken away from them. So my whole thing with that is, okay, fine. If you want to be outraged at the idea that your TikTok can be taken away, then I hope that you are aware of just how much of your identity and your brain power and your thoughts and minds and processes you are willfully giving away to other corporations through your consumption of other apps. So just keep that in mind, because you're pretty much accomplishing the same thing. Now, I guess you can suggest that it's okay if you are selling your own secrets domestically through your use of this app. Perhaps you can be content and lay your head down at night, because you're giving away all of this valuable data and information to companies that are domestically proprietized, as opposed to it being a foreign country. But nevertheless, you're still actively contributing to the control of your purchasing power and the control of your behavior through your use of these applications. So I kind of feel like if you want TikTok to kind of stick around because you care so much about being able to keep it because you want to be able to continue to use the app, uh, then you should also understand and be cognizant of some of the ramifications that come along with the use of these various applications. And TikTok does not fall into that boat exclusively. Instagram is very much the same way. All the rest of these things, Twitter or X, if that's what you want to call it, Threads, if you want to, if for all of the people out there who are using that, I don't know who's using that. um, what else? Facebook, for the people who are still on that, you are giving away valuable insights and data to servers that are owned and licensed by corporations that they can then take and use that information to figure out the best and most effective ways to control the way that you spend your money. And that should cause at least some trepidation in you in terms of what your free will actually means for you. TikTok does a lot of the same stuff. So I get it. We all want to be able to use these apps, but just understand that that's also what comes along with it. So you want to fight tooth and nail for TikTok to stay. Understand what you are sacrificing on the back end, whether you realize it or not, by ardently being so in favor of stuff like TikTok not getting banned. And again, I'm not suggesting that it should get banned. I'm not on this stuff anyway, so I really don't care. But just, if you wanted to stay, understand what you give up in return for that. There is a modicum of your free will that is being sacrificed in lieu of your right, if you will, or rather privilege, however you want to look at it, to continue to use these various apps. And, I'm not holier than thou. I dabble with Instagram from time to time, mainly for the purposes of, sharing the content on this channel. I don't really get into it on a personal level. But I feel some type of way if my ability to share the content from this channel were compromised if something were to happen to Instagram or Meta or any of the various other places that I choose to share this information, hell, even YouTube. But I also understand on the back end what I am in a roundabout way sacrificing or giving up in terms of my free will by actively contributing to these various machines. And I think a lot of times people don't realize that. I think people, generally speaking, really do think that their usage of TikTok is this harmless thing that doesn't have implications elsewhere. And I'm here to tell you that that is certainly not the case. Um, there is an there is an active effort to figure out the best, most effective ways to control how you spend your money, where you spend it, how much of it you save, how much of it you invest, and how much of it you superfluously spend on things that don't appreciate in value over time. So just keep those things in mind the more you continue to advocate on behalf of your right to continue to use stuff like TikTok.
I agree with that aspect because I do believe there's a degree of this that is tied towards finances and money and corporations. And my angle is just more or less just tackling a psychological aspect of it because China does have its own TikTok and it's different from ours. They don't have ratchet videos. Most of it's educationally based, and it has more or less of a atmosphere and a culture of advancement versus degradation, deplorable, degenerate behavior. Because that's what we're getting over here. I already mentioned that I felt as though the school system was doing its own thing to make sure that the people stay ignorant. All right. I would also say that there's other institutions in the United States that make sure that that's happening too, but it's happening at the same slow drip rate. They're not controlling TikTok, and they can't control this. So they're coming up with all kinds of ways to legally get involved to get rid of this or to fix it. And so to me, yes, there is a corporate angle, but I also think it's an angle of social behavior. Because I can guarantee you this has changed the trajectory of people since it got introduced. Um, and so, yeah, I think that's why they agreed on this. That's why so many people are outraged because they've never seen such a hard agreement. I mean, you would think people would want to save children or make things better, and Congress could agree on that. But nope, No, we're fighting over this filibuster. What Trina said she was going to do? Gerryman. Uh, just gerrymandering. All right. But with this, nah, bipartisan, 100% agreement.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
No, so
Go
yeah,
ahead.
so I think that this is just I think this is a play for the minds of the people, man. That's my thoughts.
I don't know. Like, let me be very, very clear.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk about controlling purchasing power,
Mm-hmm.
I also mean, see, I look at it synonymously.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking about controlling, like a socially controlling social behaviors and patterns and norms and all of that kind of stuff, I look at that synonymously with controlling the purchase power. Because most often, especially when you're dealing with capitalism, whatever the social stratosphere of a particular population is, it largely determines the pattern with which they spend their purchasing power, or the pattern with which they expend that purchasing power. So largely, I look at it the same. I guess I coded it as controlling purchasing power, but I really do look at it as one and the same. To me, they're synonymous. When you're talking about controlling behavior and actions and controlling purchasing power, I look at them as the same. So in a roundabout way, I think you and I are saying the same thing, but I just feel like if you remove the capitalistic aspect of this, I think America cares less about controlling stuff like TikTok. I think they're so heavily invested in being able to make sure that social behavior is kept under wraps, because that social behavior can then dictate where the flow of the money goes. So I largely look at it as a hand in hand thing, but I agree with you. I really do look at them both as I look at both of those particular observations synonymously. I think it's both. Um, it's a crazy thing. I'm not really focusing on what they're doing on the governmental level or the powers that be or any of that kind of stuff, because as you've intimated when we've talked about topics like this before, you can't stop that. They're going to do it anyway, whether you like it or not, whether you picket it, protest it. I don't care how much you complain about the fact that they are attempting to do this. They're going to do it anyway. They're going to do it anyway. So the thing about it is individual, and and the thing about me is I'm an individualist. Since I know that they're going to do it anyway, I don't focus on them. I focus on what can you do as an individual to sidestep this. And what I think individuals need to think more about is how your consumption of these things do in fact play a role in you subconsciously sacrificing free will, because that is what's happening. And if you determine that you don't care as much about that, then by all means continue to fight on behalf of your right to keep TikTok around. But I think for a decent amount of people, that may be a price that's too much to pay. It just depends on your individual sensibilities and how much you care about that stuff. But I largely agree with what you're saying. I just look at both of those as the same, whether it's the financial implications, the economic implications, or the social implications. When you get to a level that is this high, I kind of look at them both the same, honestly.
Yeah, I think finances is it's a good game, but to me, they don't do stuff for money. They do stuff for power. So they don't care. They print money. They do stuff for power. So I'm the corporate angle. Yeah, I get it, but nah, this is about power to me.
Yeah. Shouts out to Marcus Dudley on the chat, my brother, as always. I think it is a flex to try to say when it comes to you, we are in unison. Can't disagree with that either. There's certainly a lot of angles to tackle this, of course. We'll never know, or maybe we'll know
We'll
what
find
the
out one
reason for
day.
what the reason for stuff is. But I just say at the end of the day, individuals need to make whatever um, modifications to their personal daily habits that they need to make in order to not be victimized by certain constraints and systems of power, if you will. And I think social media activity is one of those constraints. So take that for what you will, coming from yours truly here on the Conscious Approach channel.
Yeah. Hey man, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, man. They ain't banning YouTube though.
I don't know. I think that particular video might get flagged by YouTube. We'll see. We'll see how many views this particular video gets.
Hey man,
we'll
y'all
see.
leave a comment to combat the algorithms. We can do this, y'all.